With Gotham Knights releasing in 2 weeks, and us also getting a Spider-Man PS4 sequel in the near future, I thought it would be a good idea to list a few video games that I need. And before we get into the video, just so you know, this isn't going to be original ideas I have for video games, basically just based off of characters from Marvel and DC. Basically just superhero video games. Maybe I should have mentioned that in the title. The Batman Arkham franchise is one of, if not the best superhero video game series we've ever gotten. Saying that, one thing they failed to do with the success of this video game is capitalize on building their own universe. Of course, they had a few references to Superman and the Flash, but that was pretty much it. And now, soon we're going to be getting a spin-off video game with Superman, the Flash, the Suicide Squad, the entire Justice League, Amanda Waller, and so many other characters that it all feels just a little rushed. I'm not saying the video game will be bad, I bet it will be amazing, but just saying. And now that that's been said, I want a Daredevil game set in the Spider-Man PS4 universe. So we already know Insomniac is making a Wolverine game, which is probably going to be set in the Spider-Man universe. So that said, I really want a Daredevil game inside the Spider-Man universe. But thing is that I want it to feel a lot different than the Spider-Man PS4 game that we know and love. With Spider-Man, a free roam around the entire city works really well, and I think it would with Daredevil too. But since we've already got that, to make it a little more unique, I say we limit the free roam to only Hex Kitchen. Yes, I did just say Hex Kitchen. It'll feel a little more unique, but also letting you have the freedom of going around swinging through buildings. Now back on the thought of an open world, I want there to be a few mentions of Spider-Man, but not too much. We have to remember that these characters don't cross over that much, and we should really focus more on their story. Yes, the MCU is amazing, I'm not saying that it's bad, but I feel like for video games we should focus more on the character and themselves, and not just bringing in more and more characters. Also, that being said, I think this should be a prequel to the Spider-Man PS4 video games. I feel like a sequel would work as well, with Kingpin in jail and maybe him giving him a few clues of maybe a new mob going on, but they kind of already did that in Spider-Man PS4 with Hammerhead. I think this should be almost more of an origin story for Daredevil. And a younger Kingpin and a younger Daredevil, them kind of developing their rivalry, and also a few other characters coming in, like Elektra and maybe even Hammerhead. Next video game on my list is a Flash video game. I think this one could work really well, and the combat can be really cool. Like maybe sometimes you can like slow down everything around you. There could be a lot of potential with this video game. There are a lot of little details that I really want in this video game. First of all, no open world. I guess it could be cool to have an open world as the Flash. It could be a little cool, but honestly, for most of the part, it would be better to just have the main story and then be done with the game. So first of all, that. Second of all, I don't want an origin story in this video game. I think he should be 2 years at least 2 years into being the Flash, so that we still have a way to introduce Reverse Flash, so that he hasn't already met Reverse Flash, and they're kind of just meeting and he's kind of a bigger threat than he's ever faced, which I think will be really cool. Because almost everyone's seen the origin story of the Flash, you don't really need to show it, and if somehow someone doesn't, we could just have like a few paintings in the pre kind of credits, a few like painting kind of things showing his origin stories, how he got his powers. If you don't know somehow, he's basically in a lab and he gets struck by lightning and then he gets superpowers and he can run really, really fast. Also, no, Reverse Flash isn't just really slow. He's actually completely the opposite, which is another thing I want to talk about. But I feel like that would be getting a little bit off track, but I do sometimes. So that I didn't get sidetracked and go into a huge wormhole, I'm just gonna say I want Reverse Flash to be the main villain of this entire thing, with also the Trickster and Captain Cold as the side villains. They're both really cool characters, and also you could also put in a ton of other villains in the Flash's Rose Gallery, which is a really underrated Rose Gallery. I think no one really noticed his villains until the Flash show. No one really noticed Flash until the Flash show. Anyway, last thing I want for this video game is there to be Wally West in the middle and the end of this video game, somewhat like the Spider-Man PS4 video game. If you didn't know, Wally West is basically Flash's sidekick, but I'm not going to go too in depth with the character because once again, I get sidetracked and I don't want to do that. So basically, he has the same powers as the Flash, but he gets a little bit faster. I don't know if that was a good description of him. Anyway, he's a sidekick of the Flash. He has the same powers as him. And basically, I want him to be introduced without powers in the middle of it. This might be a little bit too much like Spider-Man PS4, but I don't really care because this is just a draft and I don't really have to care. So he's introduced in the middle without powers, and then at the end, he gets his powers. And that's kind of like a cliffhanger to set up a sequel if they ever do a sequel. Once again, this is just a draft, so I don't really have to care about any of that stuff. Next up on the list is a Moon Knight video game. I kind of want, if we ever get this, it would be cool to have it in an Arkham City / Arkham Knight kind of style of video game. The combat could really work if it was like Arkham City / Arkham Knight. Could be made by Rocksteady, which was the people who made the Batman Arkham Knight video games. Of course, it's not going to be exactly like it, with a few special features. Maybe you can go from Stephen Grant to Mark Spector and sometimes to Jake Lockley and switch up the suit sometimes. I think that would be pretty cool. Also, for a villain, you could probably have Werewolf by Night, maybe them teaming up in the end. I don't really know a ton of Moon Knight villains, but I think it might be an origin story, or it could be, once again, like, really into his career of being Moon Knight, because I don't really know a lot of Moon Knight villains, but there's a lot of special features that they could put in with this. It's a quick one. And I don't really have much about it that I have no details about it. I just want a Howard the Duck video game. For no reason at all. Just make it super make it a little bit like the Deadpool game that we got a long time ago. That was actually really good and pretty underrated. But yeah, make it kind of like that, kind of like Goofy. But that's really all I have to say about that one. I don't really know anything about Howard the Duck, so I just know I want that. Okay, I thought of an idea. I know it's after a day, which you could probably see because my shirt's different and my hair is different and the camera angle is different, but whatever. I have an idea for the thing of the video game. Basically, Howard the Duck is a detective in the Marvel Universe. And obviously it's really goofy. Goofy is the right way to describe it. I'm pretty sure I already used the word goofy, but I'm gonna just keep saying goofy because I like to say goofy, okay? I like to say goofy. Anyway, so basically we're gonna have a ton of cameos through this video game and basically do a ton of different investigations through different like places in the Marvel Universe. We could have one on Nowhere, where he was actually, there's an Easter egg of him in the MCU in Guardians of the Galaxy. That, anyway, once again, I'm getting off track. One could be in Nowhere, one could be on Asgard, one could be in Wakanda, one could obviously be in New York City, because that's where I think he, like, is usually in. But I think it could be really fun. And like I already said, it could be in the style of that one Deadpool video game that we got a long time ago. Or we could get a Telltale video game version of this. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically a version of a video game where you get to choose what you say and choose what you do. So say someone walked up to you and punched you. You could either say, "Hey buddy, I don't want anything to do with this," or you could smash his head against the table. Something like that, and it defines the ending and everything that happens in the video game, which I think would be really cool. And yes, I do know that sadly the company that made these type of video games went bankrupt. They made Walking Dead versions of this, they made a Batman version of this, which is one of my favorite video games ever. I don't know how this video game went, I don't know how it went bankrupt, and I'm kind of surprised at that, but once again, it's just a draft. So, never know, Telltale could come back from the grave. Next up is a Punisher video game. So I have some ideas for this one. First of all, the free roam could kind of be in the style of GTA, where you have the option to do free roam, where you just go around beating up criminals instead of being the criminal, kind of. And then you can have a main base where you can get different weapons and stuff like that. Then you can also have the main story, which I think for the main story, instead of this being an origin story for the Punisher, or being where he's kind of already into being the Punisher, I think this should be an ending story for him. Not exactly where he dies, not where Frank Castle dies, but where the Punisher dies. Basically, him realizing that everything he's done has pretty much amounted to nothing, and that he's committing all of these mass murders because of the memory of 4 people, and he really starts to think about what would his family think of him doing all of this. And then at the end of the game, he realizes that what he's doing isn't right, and that he should just stop. And it kind of like goes, maybe he ends up getting revenge for his family's murderer, and then he realizes that he did all of that for nothing. And then at the end of the game, you can go into free roam and pretty much kill whoever you want. That's pretty much all the ideas I've had for a few video games that I would really like to see and also play. If you have any ideas, maybe you can put them down in the comments. I might do a part 2 to this video if it gets 10 likes in the first week. So make sure to drop a like and also subscribe for more videos like this. I also do a lot of edits, reactions, and pretty much everything nerdy. So I'll see you next time on Dooz's Nerd Haven. Bye.